You tell yourself it's just a short walk, just a few minutes outside. But your body already feels like it knows something your mind doesn't want to say out loud. You're standing there, keys in your hand, heart slightly faster than it needs to be. And there's this quiet question in your chest. Why does stepping outside alone feel like this? You don't panic. Not exactly. It's subtler than that. It's a hesitation that doesn't have a clear reason, a weight that shows up before anything even happens. You imagine the door closing behind you. That sound, that moment where there's no turning back without feeling silly, and suddenly your mind starts filling in the empty space. What if something goes wrong? What if someone looks at you too long? What if you trip? What if you freeze? What if you feel exposed in a way you can't explain? You tell yourself you're overthinking. You always do. But the feeling doesn't go away. It's not the outside you're afraid of, it's what happens inside you when you're out there alone. You picture yourself walking. Every step slightly monitored. Your posture, your face, your hands. You wonder if you're walking weird, if you look nervous, if people can somehow tell that you don't feel settled inside your own body. And that's the part you don't say out loud. You're not scared of the world. You're scared of being fully seen in it. When you're alone outside, there's no buffer, no familiar walls, no background noise you control, no one to quietly lean on if your thoughts spiral. It's just you, and the version of you that becomes very loud when there's too much space. Your mind starts running ahead, imagining conversations that haven't happened, judgments that were never spoken, moments that haven't gone wrong yet but already feel heavy. You think about what you'd do if something awkward happened, how you'd explain yourself, how you'd recover, how long you'd replay it later at night. You already feel tired. And you haven't even stepped outside. Sometimes you wonder when this started. Was it always like this? Or did it quietly grow over time? Maybe there was a moment when you felt unprepared, caught off guard, alone in a situation where you wished someone else was there. Your mind remembers that feeling, even if you don't consciously think about it. Your body learns something. Being alone out there means you have to hold everything yourself, every reaction, every decision, every emotion that pops up without warning. Inside, you can pause, you can sit, you can distract yourself, you can disappear into familiar corners. Outside, time keeps moving, people keep passing, and you don't get to stop the world if your thoughts get too loud. So you delay, you find reasons, you wait for the right mood, you tell yourself you'll go later, and then later turns into night. And you feel both relieved and disappointed at the same time. Relieved because you didn't have to face that feeling. Disappointed because part of you wanted to feel normal about it. At night, the thoughts come back. They always do. You replay how you almost went. You imagine how it could have gone perfectly or terribly or somewhere in between. You have entire conversations in your head. If someone asked you something, if someone judged you, if someone needed something from you and you didn't know how to respond, you practice being calm. You practice being confident. You practice explaining yourself, and it's exhausting. There's a fear underneath all of this that doesn't have a simple name. It's not danger. It's not weakness. It's the fear of being alone with your inner noise while the world keeps watching. When you're with someone, there's a shared focus, a shared pace, a shared responsibility for what happens. When you're alone, everything lands on you. If you feel awkward, there's no one to balance it. If you feel unsafe, there's no immediate comfort. If your thoughts spiral, there's no distraction that feels solid enough. You start to associate being alone outside with emotional exposure, not physical harm, emotional nakedness. You worry about freezing, about not knowing what to do, about your face betraying what you feel. You've learned how quickly moments can turn into memories that haunt you later. Little things. A glance. A pause too long. A word you didn't say right. You know how those moments follow you into bed, into the dark, into the quiet hours when your mind refuses to rest. So avoiding the situation feels like self-protection. But there's a sadness mixed into it, because you also crave independence, ease, the ability to just go. You see other people do it so casually. walking, standing, existing without seeming to monitor themselves. You wonder what that feels like. You wonder what it would be like to step outside and not immediately feel like you're performing. There's a hidden fear that if you're alone out there and something goes wrong emotionally, you won't recover fast enough, that the feeling will stick, that it will follow you home. You don't trust the world to be gentle. But more than that, you don't trust your own mind to let things go. You know how long you can hold on to a moment, how deeply you can dissect it, how even neutral experiences can turn into proof that something is wrong with you. So your system says, let's not add new material. Better to stay in, better to be safe, but safe doesn't always feel peaceful. It feels quiet, heavy, like a pause button that's been pressed for too long. You sit with the lights low, phone in hand, mind drifting. You think about all the versions of yourself that exist only in your head. The confident one, the calm one, the one who walks outside without thinking twice. You wonder if they're real, or if they're just ideas you use to measure yourself against. There's a fear that if you try and fail, it confirms something painful, that you're fragile, that you're different, that you're behind. So you avoid the test altogether. This fear isn't loud. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It says, stay where you're already holding it together. And you listen because you're tired of feeling overwhelmed. But even in that tiredness, there's a quiet longing, a wish to feel lighter, less monitored, less braced for impact. You don't want to be fearless. You just want to feel neutral. As the night deepens, you lie there, thinking about the door, the street, the version of you that didn't go. And for a moment, instead of judging yourself, you notice something softer. This fear came from somewhere. It formed to protect you, to keep you from drowning in feelings you didn't know how to carry at the time. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you learned how deeply things affect you. You're sensitive to atmosphere, to energy, to the way moments linger. That sensitivity makes the world louder and silence heavier. So of course being alone outside feels intense. You're not broken for feeling this. You're responding to a world that often asks you to be tougher than you feel. As you breathe in the quiet of your room, something loosens just a little. You realize the fear isn't demanding you change. It just wants to be acknowledged. It wants to know that you see it, that you understand why it exists. And maybe that's enough for tonight. Not a decision, not a promise. Just the understanding that this fear isn't random, and you're not alone with it. You're lying there, still, breathing. And for the first time in a while, the thought of outside doesn't feel like a threat, just a place that exists, waiting. Not pressuring you, not calling you out, just there. And that's something your mind doesn't know what to do with, because you're used to urgency, used to preparing, used to bracing for impact before anything even happens. Stillness feels unfamiliar, almost suspicious. You lie there and notice how your thoughts don't immediately rush this time. They hover, they slow down. And in that slower space, another layer shows itself. Part of what scares you about being outside alone is the silence between moments. The pauses where there's nothing to focus on except yourself. When you're walking with someone, the conversation fills the gaps. When you're inside, distractions soften the edges. But outside alone, there are these stretches of time where you're just there. No script, no role, no clear purpose other than moving forward. And your mind hates unstructured space. It starts asking questions you didn't invite. Am I doing this right? Do I look strange? What if I feel sudden sadness and can't hide it? You're afraid of emotions surfacing in public without permission. There's a memory buried somewhere of feeling exposed when you weren't ready. Maybe you don't remember the details, just the sensation, the heat in your face, the sudden awareness of being watched while feeling small inside. Your nervous system remembers that, even if your logic doesn't. So when you think about going outside alone, your body prepares for emotional ambush. You imagine yourself standing at a crossing, waiting, nothing happening. And yet, everything happening inside you. You worry about where to look, what to do with your hands. How long is too long to stand still? It's not the act of walking that scares you, it's the moments where you don't know what's expected of you. You've always been good at reading rooms, at sensing shifts, at adjusting yourself to fit what feels safest. But alone outside, there's no room to read, just motion. And you're expected to simply exist. That expectation feels heavy. You've spent so much of your life managing reactions, predicting outcomes, preventing discomfort before it forms. Being alone in public removes your usual tools. There's no one to mirror, no one to check in with using a glance, no one to subtly lean toward if the world feels too loud. You're afraid of needing comfort and having nowhere to put that need. That fear doesn't come from weakness. It comes from having learned early that comfort wasn't always available when you needed it. So you learn to self-contain, to hold everything quietly, and going outside alone feels like opening the lid just a little too much. You worry that if you let yourself feel freely out there, it won't stop. That emotions will spill in ways you can't neatly gather again at night. You replay imaginary scenarios. Not dramatic ones, subtle ones. You imagine walking past people and feeling suddenly disconnected, like you're behind glass. You imagine hearing laughter and wondering if it's about you. You imagine seeing someone you know unexpectedly and not knowing how to act. Your mind doesn't jump to danger. It jumps to discomfort that lingers, the kind of discomfort that follows you home. That sits with you in bed. That replays on loop while you stare at the ceiling. You know how deeply things imprint on you, how even neutral interactions can echo. So staying inside feels like controlling the input. But there's another fear beneath that one, quieter, harder to admit. If you go outside alone and nothing happens, then what? No validation, no dramatic reason for the fear. Just you and the realization that you were holding yourself back all this time. That thought scares you too, because it challenges the story your fear tells you. Sometimes it feels easier to believe the world is overwhelming than to face how much pressure you put on yourself. You've built an internal audience that watches every move, judges every pause, questions every expression. And when you're alone outside, that audience gets very loud. It comments on how you walk, how you stand, how you exist in space. You don't just feel seen by others. You feel seen by yourself. And that self-watchfulness is exhausting. You wish you could turn it off just for a while. You lie there, listening to the quiet hum of the room. Your breath slows. Your shoulders soften. You notice something else. The fear of going outside alone isn't constant. It comes in waves. Some days feel easier. Others feel impossible. That tells you something important. This isn't about capability, it's about emotional capacity. When you're already drained, the idea of carrying yourself through the world feels like too much. You're not afraid of outside, you're afraid of being alone with yourself when you're already tired. You spend so much energy managing your inner world that the thought of adding external stimulation feels overwhelming. At night, when the world quiets, you finally have space to notice how much you've been holding. And instead of criticizing yourself, something shifts. You feel compassion, not loud, not dramatic, just a soft understanding. Of course, this feels hard. You've been asking yourself to be brave without rest, to be composed without relief, to be independent without support. Anyone would hesitate. You're not avoiding life. You're protecting your nervous system from overload. That doesn't make you fragile. It makes you self-aware. You realize you've been measuring yourself against people whose inner worlds might be quieter, less layered, less relentless. Your mind doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals. It loops. It revisits. So small actions carry more weight. As this realization settles, something releases. Not the fear, but the shame around it. You don't need to force yourself to be different tonight. You don't need to promise that tomorrow will be easier. You can just acknowledge where you are. You're someone who feels deeply, who notices subtleties, who carries experiences longer than others. Night. Of course, being alone outside touches something tender. You breathe, slow, steady. The door doesn't feel like a challenge anymore, just an option. Outside isn't an exam you're failing. It's just another space. And you don't owe it anything. You don't owe bravery. You don't owe confidence. You only owe yourself honesty. Tonight, honesty looks like rest. Like letting the fear exist without interrogating it. Like not turning it into a flaw. You lie there, eyes heavy. The thoughts soften. Not gone, but gentler. And in that gentleness, a quiet truth lingers. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're just learning how to carry yourself in a world that often asks too much too fast. And that learning doesn't happen loudly. It happens in moments like this, in the dark, in the quiet, with no one watching, just you, breathing, still here.